Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Spies in Disguise. Spies in Disguise comes out as Blue Skies in sort of an interesting situation. They've been bought by Disney through the kind of 20th Century Fox buyout, and they have two kind of newer directors taking the reins. It's kind of a definite step into the future of the studio. Whether that turns out to be a good step or not is kind of how I came into this film, both from reading about Blue Sky, helping with Saber Sparks' video, What Ruined Blue Sky, kind of piqued my interest into this because it seemed like they actually had a lot riding on Spies in Disguise, which I think at first seems sort of like a silly spy movie, and I kind of wasn't initially had the highest expectations. I think most people didn't, but as going into it, I showed some really great action set pieces, amazing framing, and an actual pacifist message in a violent spy movie, which was kind of interesting. I mean, not too violent, it's a kid's movie, but it was actually kind of much more interesting than I ever thought Spies in Disguise would be. And it kind of made me think Blue Sky has a lot of potential in it. It made me actually, one of the few times I've seen a Blue Sky movie that wasn't like the Peanuts movie, and made me actually want to see another Blue Sky film and another film from these directors, which is pretty incredible, frankly. Spies in Disguise is really about the yin and yang of Spies in Disguise is kind of the core of it, where you have Will Smith's character of Lance Sterling, who's like the cool, amazing spy that everybody loves, and he's been sort of disgraced and everything, and he does everything more violently. He's your typical spy in your typical movie. Will Smith actually giving the kind of movie star performance I think we all want him to give, that was one of the things I found very interesting about Will Smith in this, is because, you know, he keeps constantly talking about making a comeback and like making a good impression. We keep hearing about that, but we never really get the movie star charm from him anymore. It feels like he feels like he almost can't fully do that, and then this he did it so effortlessly. I was a little like, where's this guy been? Like, this is a lot of fun seeing this, but he is disgraced. He's been sort of framed by this other villain who's stolen his face, and he takes on this guy in the lab called Walter, who's more of a pacifist, and then turns into a pigeon because he wants to find a way for spies to disappear, so therefore they're better spies, and uses this tech to make them into pigeons, because who would suspect a pigeon? And they have to go on this journey as Will Smith is a pigeon, and Walter is helping him with his experimental tech and kind of showing him the ways of being anti-violence, basically. And Will Smith kind of embraces his kind of weirder, stranger tech, while also kind of coming to terms with why they use violence in these situations, and also why they can possibly do it in a different way. And as a dad, and as someone who watches a lot of animation and hopes that the morals in it are positive and good for kids and not to be super lame or something, but I thought that was actually really refreshing and a good way to take this story. I would say it's not really just about him turning into a pigeon. It's about a lot more than that. Problem solving and conflict, which I actually thought, I was like, holy crap, like Spies in Disguise. I did not expect this coming from you guys. As well as I thought a lot of the framing from the action stuff reminded me, I guess, of what Brad Bird could accomplish in the first Incredibles, and like maybe the second one. I guess the framing was good, even though I don't love that movie, but the way he's definitely very influenced. These directors, Troy Cuny, I guess, and Nick Bruno, are very influenced by live action movies and the framing and the visuals of those, and they do it really, really well. In fact, they even do a kind of cool intro that's like a James Bond movie without doing like too many sexy girl things. That made me think like, hey, why doesn't James Bond just like make an intro like this, like without doing all the, you know, I don't mind the sexy ladies and stuff, but I think, you know, you could like loosen it up and do more things with it. And this, like, I actually thought was a really cool, both a parody, but like not one that was like inappropriate for a kids movie, which was interesting, because I was like really entertained by it, and it really set up everyone and used all the characters really well. But as well as like when they do those action sequences, they reference things like Kill Bill specifically, was the one I definitely noticed. They don't do it like too harshly, and I felt like the visuals in the action sequences were really, really well done. Like, I don't think Blue Sky has directors who really like stand out as much as the other CGI animation studios, or the major animation studios currently. And these guys, like, for a first feature, this is very impressive, I have to say. This was based on a short called Pigeon Impossible. I have not seen it. It's like 10 years old. I don't think the person who made it has much to do with this movie, and I'm not sure how the development cycle for that was. Sometimes short films do get bought up and become other movies, but they usually are drastically different. Like Pixels was a short before as well. It was also interesting hearing Karen Gillan and Ben Mendelsohn do their natural voices, whereas Tom Holland has to like do his recognizable kind of Spider-Man voice. It was interesting what actors they would let have their natural voices and what ones they didn't. I'm not exactly sure why that was. I was kind of surprised at how much I liked it. I actually took Sophie, and she was maybe not, kind of like the trailer and stuff, but we were way more into it than I think we thought we'd be. I was kind of more seeing it because it's, the big animated movie at Christmas and all that stuff, but I was often surprised at how kind of captivating it was. I think Tom Holland and Will Smith are really the key to that. This was really well cast, despite them being two movie stars, and I get why they were cast. They actually had really good chemistry with one another. And I like the get weird thing that they're really into, like the funny tech, which plays like very much a kid's movie kind of a joke, but has an actual sort of point to it, which I thought made it actually that much more powerful. I guess the villain part of it all kind of connected. It was very like thematically and theory-wise very actually pretty airtight, which was kind of surprising, frankly. It kind of made me think about what the future, if these guys are the new kind of people in Blue Sky, and what that future would look like if these kind of like really tighter theory-wise kind of Blue Sky movies. Really surprised by that. And I think Ferdinand I felt like was a little bit better for them, and then this I like really dug, and would, to be honest, like put this on and watch it again because I just thought it was a very solid animated family film. And it's one that, as dark as it sometimes can get, pretty dark and pretty far. And I think there's a certain point where it's like no violence is, the film basically preaches like violence is necessary and kind of comes around on that. And I thought, to take on that kind of more serious note at a certain point was interesting because it kind of makes the kind of pacifist choice, or the idea of, actually compromising and figuring things out and, trying to discuss something with someone or coming up with a better solution that works without hurting or killing someone, felt actually really powerful, especially the way they did it in this. And I think that was a really great message. And I think that's one of the things that Spies in Disguise, I'll probably remember it a lot for, is that, and kind of the fun it had with everyone, from DJ Khaled to Reba McEntire for some reason, to everyone in this. And Rashida Jones, I'm not sure why she's in so many animated things, but she was quite good in this. And I liked even the Pigeon stuff in it. It was a kind of surprisingly enjoyable animated movie. It had its heart in its right place, it had its morals in its right place, it had its theory in the right place, and it's surprising that it's like about so much more than just like, haha, this like guy's a pigeon or whatever. That's interesting, like how much it isn't the centerpiece of the movie as much as it's selling the movie, which I don't think a lot of movies do as well nowadays. I think Spies in Disguise did like excellently well, frankly, because maybe part of the title is to kind of disguise like what it's really trying to show to kids is like, a more complex way of dealing with conflict and arguments, which might be me putting too much on it. But to be honest, I thought it was like a interestingly deep kind of studio film, which was also really enjoyable and really well directed. And it kind of showed me that these directors, maybe have a lot more potential for Blue Sky than we previously thought there was potential for a studio like this. It seems like it's sort of like at the end of its rope, or like the Disney, we always think, everyone seems to think they're going to get dumped, which Disney has constantly said is not going to happen. And frankly, maybe they saw this and said, hey, maybe there's potential to here in us having 3 animation studios. And at least this leaves me thinking, like, if this is it for Blue Sky, I will think like they actually did have somewhat of a bright future. And I think Spies in Disguise kind of highlights that bright future and what they could possibly be doing with that future with these 2 directors. So I thought made a really impressive debut in able to kind of say all this with a fun, enjoyable kids film, and just have like sparkles and kitty cats all throughout it, and kind of leave everyone laughing and actually clapping. I heard a bunch of people clapping afterwards. I mean, it is a kids movie, so I think Spies in Disguise is kind of masking a much more deeper message, which it kind of wears on its sleeve proudly as you go out and you kind of, at least makes you think about the idea of the deeper messages of kind of fully understanding why you're doing that kind of resolution rather than just running to do kind of the most extreme way to end an argument. So if you have seen Spies in Disguise and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.